Hello everyone, my name is Hannah and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in the month of September. So I read 14 books in the month of September and I had one DNF, but I read a lot of good books this month, so let's just get right into it. So the first book that I read in September was Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is the sequel companion to It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. And It Happened One Summer is one of my all-time favorite romances, and so I was highly anticipating this one and I finally got to it. This follows the main character from the first book, her sister, and then the main love interest in the first book, his best friend. So you see a little bit of them in the first book and I was already shipping them in the first book, and so when I heard that there was going to be a book about them, I was so excited. So this follows Fox and Hannah, and it has a friends to lovers trope in it, as well as a forced proximity, because Hannah, it works for this filming production company, and they're going to be filming in this little small town that Fox lives in, and she has nowhere to stay because Piper, her sister from the first book, and Brendan are doing something, so they can't host her, so she ends up staying with Fox. So they're roommates for this little bit that she's in this town with her filming company or whatever. And I loved this. I thought this was so cute. I think I may have even liked this one more than I liked It Happened One Summer. It's tough to say. I love them both so much. I gave this 5 stars. I really love this. I'm so glad that I ended up enjoying it because I was nervous because I loved the first one so much that I was afraid I wasn't gonna like this one as much, but I liked it just as much as the first one. So I started off the month on a high note because I gave this 5 stars. Then the next book that I read was Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This is the same author as The Love Hypothesis, which this was a highly anticipated release for me because I loved The Love Hypothesis. I gave that one 5 stars, and so I was eagerly anticipating this one. This one follows B, who is a scientist, neurological scientist. She works with the brain a lot. And then Levi, who works at NASA in the lab. I don't know, they're both scientists. And they do not get along, or at least B thinks that Levi hates her, and he kind of does. That's the way when you first meet him, you're like, oh yeah, he's kind of abrupt with her, and the way that he talks to her, you're like, what's going on here? And so they do not get along, so it's a kind of hate to love or annoyed to love story, but they end up having to collaborate on this project, so they're forced to work together. And I thought that this was just as cute as The Love Hypothesis. Again, I'm so happy that these two, they were both highly anticipated releases for me from books that I gave 5 stars to, and then I ended up loving both of these and giving both of them 5 stars. That was just the best way to start the month because I was just so eagerly anticipating both of these. So yeah, I really loved this one. I thought this was great and really cute, and I definitely think if you liked The Love Hypothesis that you will like this one. Then I participated in the dark romance readathon, and I picked up a few dark romances, so I'm going to talk about those now. I do have a full reading vlog for all of these, so I'll leave that linked down below if you want to check that out and see my more in-depth thoughts as I'm reading them. But the first book that I picked up for the dark romance readathon was There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark, and I ended up picking up There Is No Devil as well. So this is a duet. This is The Sinner's Duet by Sophie Lark, and it is a serial killer romance. And I was very skeptical of this because of that, because I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like that. But yes, they are very dark, so if you're not a dark romance reader, don't read these. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I liked how there was a bit of a thriller aspect to it, obviously because the main guy is a serial killer. So it follows Mara, who is an artist, and she kind of gets roped in to this almost turf war between these 2 serial killers. And the one serial killer that we follow, Cole, ends up falling for Mara a bit, or at least feeling this obsessiveness, protectiveness towards her. Yeah, it was just really entertaining. I just flew through this first one and I really loved it. I gave this one 5 stars. So again, I started off the month with 3 5-star books back to back. It was awesome. And then I gave There Is No Devil 4.5 stars. I did really like this one, but I ended up liking the first book a bit better. But this was a great wrap up to this duet. So I really ended up enjoying these, and I was very surprised by that. I went into There Are No Saints with a bit of skepticism because I wasn't sure I was gonna like it, and I ended up loving it. So I really, really like these two books, and I'm glad that I have the cool limited edition covers or special edition covers, but I do also still kind of like the original cover of There Are No Saints, but I can't find it anywhere. But yeah, I ended up really loving these, which was a complete surprise to me. Then I picked up Hooked by Emily McIntyre. I said it wrong before. I think I said McIntyre. I don't know why I said that, but Emily McIntyre. So this is a Peter Pan retelling or reimagining, more like. It's not fantastical at all. It's not set in Neverland, which is kind of what I was anticipating, but it is a contemporary dark romance. So it's just set like in the normal world, and some of the characters like have the same names, and that's pretty much like all that there is. Like, it was a very loose retelling, and I wouldn't even say retelling, I would say reimagining, because it's completely like Wendy is Peter's daughter. So anyways, yeah, so the main guy in this is like Hook, Captain Hook, but he's not Captain Hook, so he just goes by James, I think. And Hook and Peter are like rivals in this world, and so Hook wants to get revenge on Peter by like seducing his daughter and like ruining her. So that's like where the story really takes off, but this just felt kind of flat for me. I did enjoy it for the most part, but I wasn't like overly invested, I guess, but it was still good. I still did enjoy it. It just like left me a bit wanting, so I ended up giving this one 3 stars. And then the next 2 books that I read for that readathon are more taboo rather than dark, but they are the first 2 books in the Nashville Neighborhood series. So the first book is The Doctor by Nikki Sloan, and then The Pool Boy. So these are both age gap romances. This is ex-boyfriend's dad, and it's got an age gap. And then this is best friend's son age gap. So the older person in this relationship is a woman, and I feel like you don't see that very often. But yeah, both age gap, both very taboo, and both really fun and really quick reads. I really enjoyed these. I definitely want to continue on with this series. The next book is The Architect, and then I believe there's a 4th book coming out called The Frat Boy, but that one hasn't come out yet. But yeah, I really liked these. I thought they were really fun, very quick reads. Nothing too serious, but definitely a fun time. I think I gave both of these 4 stars. Then I did my reread of A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas for my read along with my friend Christina. So yeah, this was like my 5th or 6th time rereading this book, and it was just really fun to get back into this world with these characters and see where the story began, because if you don't know, I don't know how you don't know, but A Court of Mist and Fury is my favorite book of all time, and I reread that one quite often, but I usually just skip A Court of Thorns and Roses and go right into my reread of A Court of Mist and Fury. So it's still fun to go back to like where it all began, and I really liked seeing all of the foreshadowing and stuff in this, and I just love these characters and this world. Can't sing its praises enough, but yeah, an obvious 5 out of 5. Then I picked up The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. This is the same author as The Spanish Love Deception, which I read last year, and I absolutely loved it. I gave that one 5 stars. It's one of my favorite romances. So again, I was highly, highly anticipating this one, and I got to be a guest host on the Sugar and Spice Book Club, which was over on Lachlan's channel. So if you want to go watch that live show back where we talk about this book, I did not really like this one. I gave this 2 stars. I was so bored by it. I thought the characters fell really flat. I didn't feel connected to them at all. It was very cheesy. Yeah, I just did not enjoy this one. It follows the main character from The Spanish Love Deception, Lena. It follows Lena's cousin, Lucas, and then Lena's best friend, Rosie. And they have like a forced proximity where they have to stay in the same apartment because Lena's gone on her honeymoon, I believe, and Lucas is staying at her place while she's gone, and then something happens to Rosie's apartment, so she ends up going to stay at Lena's apartment as well. And that forced proximity could have been the plot for this, like that could have been the trope that we focused on, but then Elena Armas decided to throw in the fake dating trope again, and it was so dumb how she went about like introducing the fake dating. Like, it was so unnecessary. And we did fake dating in The Spanish Love Deception, and so we didn't need to do that in this one, especially since they were already having like the forced proximity. That could have been good enough. But yeah, this just felt really, really bland, and I just did not enjoy this one. So yeah, 2 stars for this. Such a disappointment. The next book that I picked up in September was Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is the first book in this series, but this is a companion series to the Caraval series, which I have not read, but I want to after reading this. This is a very like whimsical kind of fairy tale. I don't know that it has like any fairy tale like influences, but it's very whimsical and fantastical, and I loved the writing in this. Also the map, what a stunner. But yeah, this follows Evangeline, who makes a deal with the Prince of Hearts, also known as Jax, and she's like set on this journey that just, it gets so insane. Like there's no way that I could like sum it up well enough. So if you want to just read the synopsis, I don't know that I would do a good job of doing it any better than what the synopsis says. Like I don't know how to sum it up. She tries to stop this wedding because it's between her stepsister and the guy that she's in love with, and then just like all hell breaks loose from there basically, and Evangeline and Jax, the Prince of Hearts, are thrown together quite often in all these different situations. I'm not going to spoil the book. I thought that this was really fun and very whimsical, and it was like exactly the vibe that I wanted at the time, and so I'm really excited to get to the sequel. And then there was also a 3rd book that was just announced, so I really like this one, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I did a buddy read of A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. I did this with my best friends, Rachel, Lachlan, and Cami. So this is a very like emotional second, third, fourth chance romance basically. It's one of those situations where the timing is never right for these two, but they keep getting pulled together. They have this strong connection. And I did find this very entertaining. It spans several years, and it's just constantly these two getting thrown together, and then something prevents them from actually being together. And I found it very entertaining, but also very frustrating, because there were so many situations where I was like, that is a dumb reason for you to not be together. Like, that was dumb. But I was really entertained, and I did really like the writing in this. I will say though, if you don't like cheating like at all in your books, this has a lot of cheating, and that was one of the reasons why I didn't love this. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars, but honestly it's probably more of a 3-star book. But yeah, there's a lot of cheating, and it's very messy, so if you don't like that kind of thing, I wouldn't recommend this for you. But yeah, I put 4 stars in my reading journal and on Goodreads, but I think I would change it to a 3-star. Then I read Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is another second chance romance, and it has the dual timeline, so you see what happens in the past and then you see what's happening in the present. And I really loved this one. I thought this was fantastic. It follows Macy and Elliot. They connect when they're very young, and then something happens to break them apart, and then they get thrown together several years later, and they're like rehashing everything and still have these feelings for each other. It's just a classic like second chance romance. I really loved this one. I loved the writing, and I loved how the story was told. I really like when second chance romances have the dual timeline where you flip back and forth between past and present. So I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is another kind of second chance romance. This situation is just so emotionally charged. I couldn't imagine ever being in this situation. It follows the main character Emma, who is like marries her high school sweetheart. They're like so in love, and you see them from like the moment they meet to them falling in love and getting married and what leads up to that. And then the guy, her husband Jesse, goes away on a trip and ends up in like a helicopter crash and is presumed dead. And so Emma grieves him, moves on, meets someone else, falls in love with that person, gets engaged, and then finds out that Jesse was in fact alive this whole time. He was stranded on an island and was finally discovered and had been like surviving this whole time. You see this story from like her falling in love with Jesse and getting married, and then losing Jesse and like grieving that and changing as a person, and meeting this new guy Sam and falling in love with him and getting engaged to him, and then this situation happens, and so that you're with her as she's like trying to make her decision of which like one of her true loves is going to be like the one she sticks with. And it was just such an emotional ride, and I really enjoyed this one. I thought that this was really well done, and I ended up giving this 4 stars. Now for my DNF. I didn't get very far in this one, but I have a lot of feelings on it, and that is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hochul. I got 72 pages in. Okay, so not very far at all. Like, not even a quarter of the way through it. And I just could not stand these two characters. I thought this book was so dumb, and the whole setup for it was just so poorly done. So it follows Naomi and Nicholas, and they're engaged to be married. And they don't like each other. They don't get along. The way that they talk to each other and interact is so passive aggressive, and just the things that they say, I'm like, why are you two even still together? The main character was so freaking annoying, and she said so many stupid things, and I just like could not. And this whole situation could have been prevented if they would have just talked to each other. And so I know the miscommunication trope, like, it can be done well, and I just feel like this was so dumb because she's like, I'm still gonna get married to him out of spite. Like, who in their right mind? I was just so annoyed. And yeah, I just could not continue on because I couldn't stand either of these two characters. So I DNF'd it. And then the last book that I read in September was a reread, and that was a reread of Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This is one of my favorite books of all time. It's going to be my favorite book of the year. I can just tell. And I was just really craving rereading this book and being with these characters. I really was craving the writing because the writing in this book is just phenomenal. It's next level, and I absolutely loved it so much. So rereading it and knowing what I know now after like reading all of the other books and getting to annotate and add things to it was really fun. So 5 out of 5 because it's one of my faves. But yeah, this is what I ended the month of September on. So here are all of the books that I read in September. It's quite the stack. I had mostly 4 and 5 star reads, which is awesome. I only had a couple that were duds. I had the DNF, and then I had a 2 and a 3 star. But other than that, most of these were really good, and I really enjoyed my reading month. So if you made it to the end of this video, leave a fall leaf emoji, since September was the first month of fall, to let me know that you made it to the end of this video. Don't forget to click like and subscribe while you're down there to help support me and my channel. I would really appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!